This podcast is brought to you by Customplan Financial Advisors, Inc., an independent insurance managing general agency in Canada. Financialpodcast.ca was developed with one goal in mind: to educate Canadians on important topics that affect their financial well-being and make it readily available to all. We welcome you to plug in and learn with us. If you have questions, please email us at contact@financialpodcast.ca.
Hello and welcome to the Financial Podcast. My name is Gary Poyer. The Financial Podcast is brought to you by Customplan Financial Advisors, an award-winning managing general agency that provides exceptional support and resources to the independent financial advisor. Please visit customplanfinancial.com to see all the resources that are available to you as the independent financial advisor. Today, we will once again be focusing our discussion on the topic of success and what you can do to become a person of success. This episode is our third and last episode on success, and just like with the previous two episodes, we have an exceptional guest for you to learn from. We're extremely pleased to have with us today a man who has more than 40 years of experience providing advice on group benefits and life insurance. And that man is Mr. Joel Cadesky from SC Insurance in Toronto. Joel, welcome to the Financial Podcast.
Thanks, Gary. Pleased to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. Joel, please tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business, and what the journey has been like over the last 40 years.
Okay. So I was born in Owen Sound, Ontario, and I went to Teachers College after high school. I went to university first, then went to Teachers College. After Teachers College, I taught for 9 years, and then decided that we didn't want to live in a small town, Ontario. We wanted to live in Toronto. So my wife and I and our child moved to Toronto. And I had no job. I was on unemployment insurance. And one day we were fortunate enough to buy a house, even though I was on unemployment insurance, but we were able to get a good realtor. And I went to look for house insurance, and I found a man near our house. And the first question he said is, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I don't have one." He said, "How would you like to sell life insurance?" First question I asked him was, "Does it pay?" He said, "Are you a hard worker?" I said, "Yep." He says, "I'll get you a job." Next day I was in front of a manager at Crown Life in Toronto. They interviewed me, liked what they saw, did the usual test, and I started in 1978. And from there, I just learned by osmosis, I guess, hard work, going out, banging on doors, cold calling, you name it. You asked me what's my journey been like for over 40 years. Very, very, very interesting. Starting with 0 people to go to, literally. They always ask you to come with 100 people to start with. I had none, literally. I had maybe a few people that next door neighbor I could ask, but basically it was all. And from there, you just learned and learned and learned. And then I left Crown Life, went to a company called KRG Insurance. And that was the start of my education. I really didn't learn about insurance until I joined them. And I had good mentors. Stephen Wise was my mentor, and the rest of the gang. And then it just went from there to there to there, and where I am today. And it's just been really, really a lot of fun. But boy, oh boy, at the beginning was it trust. I mean, I was literally working 7 days a week, every day for the year. So the journey, yeah, it's been long. It's been fast, but it's been great. And I wouldn't change it for an iota of my job.
Well, you're very fortunate, because a lot of people would not be able to say that in their careers that they've chosen.
I think part of it is the mindset that you have. And one of the best parts about what I do is I'm helping people, and I can see the results. I always remember certain people saying their job, it's just boring. They input stuff. At the end of the day, they go home and they don't get any satisfaction. Where me, every day is satisfaction. Every time a client phones, I solve a problem. It's fun. It's satisfying. It's I don't know. I've just made my job interesting and fun. And the clients that I have, I've made them interesting and fun as well. And a lot of my clients I've had for 35 plus years, and they'll tell you it's been a real joy, not to deal with me because I'm always asking for money, but it's been a joy because they know a lot about my personal life, and a lot of people in my profession try to keep it quiet, where I'm an open book. Well, actually, I am an open book because my book, my autobiography is going to be coming out this month. So yeah, I am an open book. I got nothing to hide. My clients see what they get and they get what they see.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to have an excellent podcast. But before we go any further, I want to advise our audience that because you have so much to offer today, we're going to break our interview into 2 parts, with this being part 1. So audience, be sure to check out part 2 of our interview, because you won't want to miss the insight and value that Joel provides in part 2. Now, Joel, some people enter a profession because their father or their mother were in the profession, and other people enter the profession because they see it as a bit of a calling, I guess. Why did you enter the insurance profession?
Well, as I just recently said, and I'll just reiterate it again, I had no job. Okay. And that was the first job offered basically to me, and I took it. And it sounded like it would be a lot of fun, hard work, but guess what? It was a job with paid. And my father was a one-man show and own sound scrap and metal dealer. My mother was a home, staying at home. She was your typical mother back in the 40s and 50s that basically stayed at home. So I didn't have that legacy to go into an insurance business like a lot of my people that I've met over the years. They've taken over the father, the grandfather's business. I didn't know anything about the profession until I met with the manager, Leo Fenson at Crown Life. And I started finding out when I was getting the education what it was. I mean, I bought an insurance policy when my child was born, but who remembered back then why or what I bought, which again helped me with clients, because I remember my experience. You know, here's what's going to cost. Here's what you're going to get. Well, what does it mean? Don't worry about it. Trust me. So, yeah. So that's how I got in the profession.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting. So when you first started, being that you were brand new, did you set any goals for yourself?
Yeah, Gary, I'm going to tell you honestly, you know what my one goal was? Survive. I went to a sales congress at the Royal York. People who are watching this, who are old timers, would remember them. And you got the cream of the crop of all of the insurance brokers in Canada speaking. And you also got people like me first year. And my manager said you had to go to this to see what it's about. And I remember the first thing they said is, anybody here who's in their first year, stand up. And I would say maybe 100, 200 of us stood up over there. He said, how many people are going to think they're going to be here in 5 years? And we looked around and said, I don't know. He said, one of you on each side of you won't be here. Only 1 out of 3 are going to survive 5 years. Scared the living daylights out of me, because that's the last thing I needed was another unemployment check. Yeah. So my goal was strictly get a job, do the best you can, make some money, and hopefully you'll have a career. I left teaching on my own. I didn't get fired. I actually gave up a job after 9 years, and we moved a new town. And my whole modus operandi from day one, honest to God, was just survive. And I knew at the end of the year, because the way that I got paid was very interesting. My manager gave me a draw against commission. Mm-hmm. At the end of the first year, he called me into the office and gave me my numbers. Guess what? I was in a negative position significantly. Mm. So most managers would have said, there's the door. We gave you a year. You didn't do anything. Goodbye. He saw enough in me that he continued on with me, and the rest is history. So honestly, to answer your long-winded answer, survival was all I had going for me.
Yeah. Well, it's a good goal, survival.
Yeah.
But and being new in the industry, I guess you probably it would have been hard for you to set goals anyway, other than survival. But just let me ask you, Joel, you moved from where you had been teaching to a new location. How'd you find your clients?
Every single way that any person in the industry of sales, whether you're selling widgets, tires, insurance, will tell you. Cold calling, out of the book, banging on doors, I went through the TILA list. You'd pay for that and get lists of people. My joke always used to be, hello, Mr. Zabrowski, started with a Z. You don't know me, but you're my last hope for me to make a sale tonight. Going through the telephone book, that kind of thing. Coming up with ideas on calling. And then eventually I lucked in to a company called the Welcome Wagon. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the Welcome Wagon basically says if you move into a new area, you're going to get a lot of gifts from a lot of people in the area. So the butcher will give you $5 off the first meat you buy. The local guy will give you a free oil job. I had nothing to give to them. Zero. What do I give? Just me. So my gift was zero. But I got the list. I made the phone call, and I'd say, Mr. Smith, it's Joel Cadesky. Sandra was at your house 2 weeks ago. Obviously, she gave you my gift, which wasn't true, but I had to tell them that. And also, you knew that I was going to be phoning you because she would tell you what she'd ever. And I said, I'm going to be in your neighborhood next week, Tuesday and Thursday, 7 and 9, which is convenient. I want to talk about mortgage insurance with you. Well, I couldn't believe it. People said, yeah, come on over. Beats me. I don't know, but it worked. And that was my savior. If it wasn't for the Welcome Wagon, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Really? Very interesting.
What happened was I started in the Welcome Wagon in Mississauga, Ontario. Some of your viewers may not know, but it was a brand new area, brand new subdivision outside of Toronto, and people were buying new homes. They're all brand new subdivisions, all new homes. And they all needed some type of insurance for their house and mortgage. And I was just lucky to be the mortgage guy. And it worked. And some of those clients, believe it or not, to this day, are still clients of mine in different ways. And it was interesting. Eventually, my name got known to the Welcome Wagon community. And I had 10 or 13 opportunities in different areas. But it got so expensive because I was paying $2 a name. I cut them off and I only stayed in the areas that were good, like Mississauga. But that's how I grew my business. And if it wasn't for the Welcome Wagon, I wouldn't be here today.
Okay. So given what you just said, I take it that your focus was very short term, like just the next client, as opposed to looking out over 20 years of your life saying, this is where I want to be in 20 years.
Right? You got it. Yeah, for sure. The 20 years from there, it was impossible for me to even think of 20 years. I was just thinking next week, next pay, will I get a commission? What's going to go on? It was just sale. One of the things that I was told by Crown Life that I still to this day try to emulate was there was something called the Century Club. And the Century Club basically said, if you sell 100 policies a year, you're in the Century Club, and we give you a gold watch, or who knows what it was back then. And I've always worked in the idea that I got to sell 100 policies a year. So all I did was every week, my goal was 2 a week. 2 out of 5 days. Well, it wasn't. It was really 2 out of 7 days. Didn't sound that hard, and it was, but I reached it. And the first year, after my first year, when I really got into the business of the Welcome Wagon, I was on the Century Club with Crown Life till I moved over to the KRG, but I still continued doing 100 applications per year. And still do to this day. Still try to do that 100.
Okay, well, that's a good goal. So what do you believe are the keys to running a successful insurance business?
First and foremost is discipline. We do not have to, unless you're in a situation, and there are some insurance companies that require you to give a list to your manager every day, every week where you're going. I've never had that problem. I've never, ever been requested. So I get up like when I was a teacher, I was disciplined. I knew at 9 o'clock which class I was teaching, what I was teaching, how I was going to do it. Here, your days are your own. You want to go to work 3 hours a day, you want to work 10, nobody cares. As long as at the end of the month, you got some numbers that make sense. So I think the key is discipline. And people that know me will say that I'm a very disciplined, consistent person. What you see today is what you saw 20 years ago, what you saw 30 years ago, what you saw 40 years ago. I am the same person. The other thing I think is successful is service. Man, oh man, oh man, service. As you can tell, I don't have a face for TV, so my clients aren't buying me on my looks, so they've got to buy on something else. So therefore, I give what I think is best or better service than all the other people that are in the industry. And service means when you phone me and you don't get me, my voicemail says, "This is Joel Cadesky, leave your name, message, and phone number, and I'll attempt to get back to you in 2 business hours, not 5, not 7, 2. 95 to 98 times out of 100, I'll do that. In fact, I phoned a guy back today and he said, I didn't even have a chance to leave you a voicemail, because that's what you got to do. I think learning is very, very key. One of the things that I am because I'm a former teacher, I'm very big on education. I think a lot of people in our industry don't try to get better by learning from other people. I want to learn from the best. I was just at the Canada Sales Congress like less than 2 weeks ago. The best of the best from the world were there. I want to pick up ideas over and over and over again. I talk to colleagues. I talk to people. So discipline, service, learning, I think that's the key. And if you don't have those, I don't think you're going to be successful. And they have to have them, because if you're not disciplined, you're not going to do what you have to do. If you don't know and you don't have the knowledge, you're not going to do it. And if you don't service your clients, they'll go somewhere else. Yeah. They will.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've heard a lot of different definitions of the word success, but how do you define success?
Well, I can tell you how I don't define it.
Okay.
It's not money. If I hear, and I've gone to these conferences and I've sat at tables at lunchtime and people are saying, so how was your year? Best year I've ever had. Oh my God, I'm going to be in the high 6 figures this year. I don't care. That doesn't make you successful. Successful to me basically is being able to stay in the business long time and having, which is so important, the respect of your peers and clients, because that's the mark of success in our business. I know a lot of guys in this industry who are very successful financially, but I can tell you, I don't know. I don't have respect for them. Some of them, I just see the way they sell. And that may, people who are watching this now may go, ooh, somebody's saying like that. You shouldn't say that. Well, as I told you before, I'm open, transparent. What you see is what you get. The other thing is success only appears when you work hard. And you have to really work it. And I see a lot of guys making a lot of money in our industry, and they're just lucked in. They got into their father's business, their uncle's business, or they're in an association where they've got a lot of people with rich, and there are people that are in that circle. I don't try to do that. The other thing that I think is very important for success in business, you have to have a successful family relationship. And I've been married 50 years. I've got 2 wonderful children. Both doctors, which doesn't mean anything except they're hard workers and intelligent and did what they had to do. One is an MD and one is a PhD. I've got 4 lovely grandchildren. We've lived in the same house for 43 years. The love of family, that's important. And to me, that's successful, because I know a lot of insurance brokers who've got a lot of money, but they're divorced. Their kids won't talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate. When you, just taking a step back, when you first started out in the business, was your wife working?
She worked the first 3 years until she started. She was with the Children's Aid Society, and then we had a child in 1977, and then in 1981 we had a second child, and we made a decision that I would. At that time, I was starting to make a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little bit. And I thought I could support the family. And she stopped working in 1981, and she basically raised the kids. And they are where they are. And I always say they are because of her.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. You definitely need that support from your spouse, because, especially in a commission or mainly commission-based industry.
You have to have the 100% support, because when I'm going out at nighttime at 8 o'clock after the kids were put to bed, coming back at 11 o'clock from a sale, somebody's there. It's really tough. But I think that's part of successful people. Some of the most successful agents that I know have long-standing marriages, kids, grandkids. That's happiness. And when you're happy in a family life, you're going to be happy in a business life.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the good things about technology, which I've always purported, and I put it on the internet 100 times, I think I'm the worst typist, the worst technology guy in the world. But one of the things I love, I have an iPhone and I have a special section of pictures for my family. So if I have a bad day or whatever, I just go on there, look at them, start laughing, makes me feel better, and I continue on.
Okay. Well, that kind of leads me to my next question. It's a good segue. Because I was going to ask you, why do you think you've achieved the level of success? And I think you've already answered that. You're a very hard worker, but what inspires you, or who inspires you to do your best?
So many people, I don't want to miss names, so I won't name a lot, but I will name the one that obviously from the beginning was my parents. My dad was a self-employed one-man show in Owen Sound, Ontario, back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, when I was born in the 45. And for him, we're Jewish, for him to be in a small town, to do what he did, to make a success. We weren't wealthy, but I can tell you we never missed a meal. And he was always there when I needed him. But I saw his work ethic, and I saw through osmosis how he was able to get the respect of all of the people in Owen Sound. When he died, the people that came over to my mother's house to talk about him and the stories, it was heartwarming. And I talk about it in my book a little bit about it. But I think that was where I started to get inspiration. And my mother, of course, was always there for me. And then as I got a little bit later on in life, I had an uncle in London, Ontario, Uncle Norman. Unfortunately, he died at a young age, but he opened up the store called Regal Mattress. And I got inspired by him because he left a very good job to start up in a town he never knew. He lived in Chatham, moved to London, but he opened up Regal Mattress, which, as I said, if he'd still be alive today, there would be no Sleep Country Canada, because he was the Sleep Country London. You went there and he made mattresses. You went to the back, you met the guy that was going to make it overnight. The next day it was delivered. You bought it today, it was delivered to your house, and you met the guy that was going to make it. And he inspired me because when he died, my aunt told me stories about him that I never knew. And that inspired me. And then, of course, as I got into insurance, obviously some of the big people in the industry, mentors, and that Stephen Wise is one who just really, really, really inspired me when I joined KRG. And of course, his partners, Marvin and Ronnie and the gang. But the key is, and Roy, the key is, I've had so many and I don't want to leave anybody out, but it all started with my father, because I saw how he treated people with respect, which I try to do. He earned respect. He didn't ask for it. He didn't demand it. He asked for it, which is what I'm trying to do. He was the first Jewish person in Owen Sound to be in the Lions Club, the first Jewish person in the Curling Club, the first person in the Masons Jewish. I mean, those, when you read about it and hear about it, it's heartwarming. And so to answer your question, I think that's who started the inspiration for me to be the person I am. Simple as that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you who influenced you from a positive perspective, but it sounds like your dad, your uncle, your mom. So you had that family inspiration, but then also some of your colleagues and mentors as well.
Yes.
So, what was the greatest lesson that you learned from one of your influencers? I'll put it that way. Whether it was a family or a mentor. What was the greatest lesson you learned?
I think the greatest lesson, or one of them, I can't really point one great lesson, but I think the one is love your family, work hard, respect everybody, and be modest. One thing a lot of people know about me, and I've learned that from my dad. My dad was a very quiet guy, which is the opposite of me, obviously. But he was very, very quiet, and he had so many achievements, which I just talked about, but nobody really thought about it. He never promoted it. He never talked about it, but he was very modest. I've tried to do the same thing. I've had some fairly interesting success stories in my life. I put them in the book, but it's the first time a lot of people will hear about it. But I think that that's really the key to the thing is work hard, respect people, love your family. That's the lessons I learned, and that's what I've been trying to do. And that's what I've been trying to teach. I've been fortunate that I've had a couple people in the insurance industry that I've mentored in quotation marks, and I've told them the same story. This is what you got to do to be successful. Work hard, respect your clients, respect your peers, respect everybody, be modest, don't promote it, don't tell everybody how much you're making, don't tell everybody how you're doing. Nobody cares. Nobody really cares.
Right. Joel, you sound very grounded, very centered, I guess. And it doesn't sound like you get too high. It doesn't sound like you get too low. But
the highs came early in my career, but I got shot down pretty early because I learned from Stephen and the KRG guys that a sale today is a sale today, but what are you doing tomorrow? And what you made today is not tomorrow. And when I started making sales, I actually pinched myself. I tell a story in the book about a 39-year-old that bought from me, and I came home. My wife thought that I must have flown home because I came home so quickly. And I said, would you believe it? A 39-year-old man bought from me. This is great. I can do this business. That was actually the one time that really pushed me to believe in myself that I actually could start this business and make a living, because I was 33 at the time and a 39-year-old bought from me. Oh, God, my gosh, what was he thinking?
Okay, we're going to skip down and talk a little bit about adversity, because everybody has adversity in their life. I mean, that's life, right? You don't always have good stuff happen. Bad stuff happens sometimes. But how do you handle adversity?
How do I handle it now versus how I handled it before? Before, I used to get mad, do a bunch of things that you shouldn't do, yell, scream, holler, throw maybe a tantrum, go outside, walk quickly. Now I basically live on the philosophy, what you can control, you control. What you can't control, you can't control. Mm-hmm. And I always like to think, people always talk about me, and I've had more than one person say this. With most people, you have a glass half full or glass empty, and you can look at it. With me, there's no glass. Basically, my glass is always there. It's always full. I'm going to be 77 this Friday. When you get to a certain age, Gary, you've got a long ways to go, but when you get to my age, you're going to know that there's certain things in life, all of a sudden you start thinking about more than you did before. And you're not morbid about it. You're not looking at the end of the world saying, oh my God, I'm going to die tomorrow. But you start realizing, what have you done in life? Where are you going? What have you got? And I tell you, adversity, listen, if a client is going to do something, he's going to do something. If I can control it, I can. I can't, I can't. If an insurance company doesn't do something that I want, I'll put forth my argument. If it doesn't go, it doesn't go. The end result is the sun will come up tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll get out of bed tomorrow, and it'll be another day, and we'll look at it differently. I spoke to a 82-year-old client about a month ago, and I said, so, how you doing? He said, I got out of bed today and nobody pushed me. He said to him, that was a great day. And I said, you know what? That's not a bad attitude for the day. You really, when you got adversity, what's adversity anyways? It's negativity. Mm-hmm. Well, when you're younger, and I was getting no's when I was starting out in insurance before the welcome wagon, oh man, that was adversity. How did I handle it? Not very well. Mm. How would I handle that today? Really well. People always say to me now, not before, but they say, you always seem to be high. Like, are you on cocaine? Are you on marijuana? The answer is no. I'm like my dog. I got a 15-year-old dog that should have been put down 2 years ago with cancer. And this dog, like my wife and I always say, this dog is high in life. This dog does not want to go. We thought about a month ago we had to put him down. We had the vet come to the house, did all the blood work, came back and said, I don't know. Yesterday, this dog was running around the backyard like he was a 3-year-old. So I guess part of it is when you get to a certain age, like he's 15, he doesn't understand, obviously a human. But when you get to a certain age, all of a sudden, life is great. You know what? I have nothing on a daily basis that makes me sad. I'm upset about certain things with insurance companies. Sorry, insurance companies, but I am. But in reality, my life is great. I've got my kids coming in tomorrow for the weekend to celebrate the birthdays. They're coming in from Vancouver with the grandkids. They're coming in from Ottawa with the grandkids. This is going to be a great week for me.
Yeah.
You know what? What is there in life that should make you bad? We could go crazy, Gary, and say, well, people in Ukraine, look what they would like to have, what you have. You can't do that. You got to look at what you have. You can't compare yourself to other parts of the world. You just have to look at what you have. And I'm very, very happy with my life. I have no complaints now. I had a lot of complaints before, but that was the learning. But now I've got no complaints. I'm just a happy guy all the time, every day. Sure, I got adversity like everybody else, but you understand that a bad day is going to turn into a good day. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a story. This is a funny story. So when I started the insurance business, I couldn't figure angles. Back then, we didn't have call display. So every time the phone rang, people had to pick up, right? Yep. So I would phone people and I'd say, hi, my name's Joel Cadesky. I understand you just moved in. I'd like to meet with you in the mortgage. Well, I'm not interested. Well, right off the bat, most people would hang up. So I said, well, that's really good. I am so excited that you told me that. Well, why are you excited? Because I work on the angle, 1 out of every 3 people will buy from me. The person I just phoned before said no. You just said no. So guess what? My next phone call is going to be a yes. So would you do me a favor? Please hang up so I can get somebody who wants my service. I'd say 70% of the time the person said, you know what, that's pretty cool. When can you come over? Right. But again, adversity. The answer was no. I didn't take the no. I was taught early in my career, a no is 1 step towards a yes. That's in business as well as personal life. Mm-hmm. Right? We got a lot of no's in our personal life. It's only 1 step towards a yes.
Yeah. It's a stepping stone.
They are. Yeah. They are. And the yeses are all around the corner. You just got to look for them. Happiness is everywhere. I have a hard time with people that complain about certain things that they shouldn't be complaining about, such as overworked. They're under stress that, they have too much to do. The commute was too long, whatever. You know what? We got nothing to complain about. It comes from here. That's where the complaint comes from. And I learned a long time ago, get it out of your head. Because if it does things in your head, you're really in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I forget, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, just so you know, my wife's birthday's tomorrow. So the kids are coming in for both of us. And by the way, that wasn't planned when I met her. I didn't ask for somebody born 2 days before me.
Yeah. Okay, now, so you said you're going to be 77. How many years are you planning to work?
How long am I going to live, Gary?
Well, that's hard.
My wife has a story where she tells people when they ask the same question, she says, I think Joel will be working and dying the day in front of a client doing an application form. More than likely are typing at the typewriter. Julius Heyman was 92 years of age. His son was the best man at my wedding. Julius Heyman was the editor of a magazine, newspaper / called the Jewish Standard. Mm-hmm. Julius Heyman died in front of his computer doing his editorial at age 92. Wow. So when you ask that question, I'm going to be as long as I physically am able to. And if one day I'm sitting in front of the computer or doing a podcast and I keel over, that's it. I do not see retirement. As my wife said, I am not wired for retirement. In fact, that's how we got part of the book. My book I'm doing, that's how we got the title. Retired, no. Rewired, yes. Oh. Not expired.
Oh, that's clever. So my next question then is, if you're 77 and you're so energetic, how do you maintain your energy level? Because you're obviously very energetic, enthusiastic.
So twice a week, this is a free advertisement. I don't get paid for this. I've been doing it for 5 years, since 2017. I go to now because of COVID, I do it at home and it's done, live. A company called Orange Theory. So I do the exercise with them. I'm a huge walker. We walked the dog until he got a little bit older, but my wife and I would walk forever. And I eat properly. My wife makes sure that my meals are healthy, in quotation marks. We always have blueberries and strawberries at nighttime, always for that. And I think that's part of the reason. And I think the other reason is I've just been very lucky that I've just been a happy-go-lucky guy. Even when I was a kid, my mother used to always say that. Why are you always smiling? You're always smiling. I didn't know back then. What was there not to smile? I didn't have any stress in the world. I didn't have to go to school. When I was young, I didn't have to worry about making a living. I didn't have a family. What stress does a kid have today?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But yet they are.
Okay. And your wife obviously exercises with you as well.
No, she actually exercises on another one. There's a lady, Veronica, that does Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. She does on the TV. She's got 45 people from around the world. Wow. And she does a fitness class, Gentle Fit for seniors. And so my wife does it 3 times a week. I do it twice a week.
Okay. Oh,
so she actually does more than me.
Yeah. But at least you're both exercising, right?
We are really into exercise, but we're not into the exercise. Like I tell people, I couldn't run from here to across the road without getting out of breath. But if you ask me to walk a marathon, 26.2 miles, I could do that with no trouble. I can walk, but I can't run. And right. I can exercise, and I do all the stuff, the burpees and all that. And the funny part is, and this is a good segue to what we're talking about, when I'm on the Zoom for the Orange Theory, and I do it out of my home, and other people do it from their home, wherever they are, I'm the oldest guy, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I don't compare myself. So when they say do this or do that, I look at them, of course, because you're looking at the screen, seeing how it's done, and they're doing their stretching and that, and I can't do it. I don't compare myself to them. I compare myself to me. If they're asking me to do a burpee and this is the best I can do, but at least I'm doing it and I'm not standing, I'm okay. My knees, my hips, they're perfect so far. I don't need a hip replacement. I don't need a knee replacement. So far, so good. We do weightlifting. I can lift weights all day long, not a problem. So yeah, I think that's part of it. I think the big problem is that too many people in our profession, they sit at a computer too long, especially with COVID. One thing that I tried, and here's a secret, during COVID, I went to go see people as they would see me. Now, of course, I wouldn't be shaking hands and we're at one end of the table. But guess what? There's a thing in our industry called e-application. I'm known by most people as the guy that does not do e-applications. All my applications, I meet with people and I do them in person. Unless they're out of town, then that's a different story. But most of my clients are within a driving distance of an hour, 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah, well, I know that it's a huge difference between Zoom and in person. There's nothing like doing the application and the having the conversation in person. It's just...
Well, the first thing I want to see is I want to see what's going on in their house. If I see pictures of kids, if I see this, I see that. If he's got Blue Jay outfits around or he's got pictures of him at the ball game or golf, that's an opener to talk. Because one thing I've learned, among other things, about being a salesman is that you have to find out what your client is interested in and try to bond. So I try to read 2 newspapers every day. I subscribe to 4 magazines. I watch the news every night religiously, 11 o'clock. If you want me, call me at 11. I'll be in front of the TV watching the news. And I can talk in current events. I can talk pretty well in any topic you want to talk about because I like to think that I'm in there. So if you want to talk about the Blue Jays, I can talk about it. I can give you statistics. If I go into somebody and he's a big Green Bay Packer fan, I'll talk about Green Bay Packer and Rodgers and all the gang and what happened here. And that's a really good thing because when I'm with clients or talking to clients, you don't want to just talk insurance. That's boring. You want to talk about what they want to talk about and what they're interested in. I'll give you another story, which is in the book. There's a retired group representative for group insurance from Sun Life named Jim McKnight. And Jim found out that I had joined KRG in 1982. And being a good salesman, he approached and said, hi, I'd like you to do business with our company. Well, guess what? I only dealt with Crown Life, so I was open. And he found out in conversation after a while that I like professional wrestling. It's on my LinkedIn, by the way. It's not a secret. I've been watching professional wrestling since age 10. And I like it. And he found out about it. And he found out that I watched the TV. So what he did was he immersed himself. Jim and I used to go to wrestling matches all around Toronto. And he, to this day, I just talked to him 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about the latest wrestling that was occurred. But what he did was we had that bonding because we had something in common. So we became close friends, social friends, but the common bond at the beginning was he learned what I like. So I like to learn what clients like. So if somebody's really into auto racing, I'll search out F1 racing all I can. In fact, I'm watching the Netflix series F1 now on there to try to find, because I have clients that like F1. I just had a client flew to Amsterdam for the Dutch Grand Prix about 2 months ago, and I talked to him about the Dutch Grand Prix. Couldn't believe it, but I knew all about it because I knew he was going. So you got to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that makes life fun too, right? You got to be, as I said, learning. It's not always about the insurance business. Learn about the world. So many people are ignorant about what's on around them. They only know their own thing. If they're an accountant, they only know accountancy. They don't know what's going on in the world. You got to be, learning and everything.
Yeah, for sure. So, earlier we talked about the discipline that you have. So what is your secret to being disciplined? Because there's just so many distractions and interruptions in the world. How do you stay disciplined?
Oh, it's very simple. Become a teacher. I was a teacher for 9 years. You got to be disciplined in that job. You got to know what you're doing every day. You got to have this planned out. You got to have there. So that's just the first thing. If you've got a background of a teacher, and by the way, research has shown you some of the best salespeople, not necessarily insurance, they could be selling widgets, are former teachers, because you've got to be really disciplined. But I think the other thing is you always have to be on top of everything. And the discipline that I do is that I also have what I call my to-do list. And it's a book like this. There it is. There's the one I got. And on it, you'll see stroke. My to-do list is this. So if you ask me, could you do this, send something to the insurance company, I'll put it down. When it's completed, I'll stroke it. I do not want to have at the end of the evening marks that are not stroked out. I want to have everything done. And if you get in that routine after all the time I've been doing it, it's like second nature. Every time a client asks me, I write it down. I make sure by the end of the night, I've stroked it off, that I've done it. Hasn't necessarily been completed, but it's been started.
Okay. All right. So you maintain a book or a to-do list. So you don't leave it to your memory in order to get things done.
At my age, ask me what I had for breakfast this morning. I'll ask you, did I even have breakfast? So, now this book here that I have, this is the book. If I lose that book, I'm in trouble. I know some people, they use their iPad, and that's okay too. I like writing. I'm old school. I like writing. I don't like typing.
Okay. And do you have an assistant that helps you do that kind of stuff, or?
I have people at our office that will help me. But unfortunately, I'm a type, well, actually, my wife says I'm a type AA, not a type A. And I like doing things quickly and efficiently for myself. If there's typing or some paperwork that I don't like, I have phenomenal staff at this office that will help me. But I do a lot of it myself, only because I want it done and I know what it's done. Not that they're not competent; they're extremely competent. And they, today they were doing some stuff for me that I didn't want. But when a client asks me to find this, I don't want to bother them because they're busy if I can do it. And if I have the time, I'm going to do it myself as well. And then, and I also have Gary, I also have a rule that most of my clients follow on group insurance. Every one of my employees of every one of my companies that I insure have my cell number and email address. And I ask the owners and I ask the employees, if you have any questions, don't go to, by the way, I get in trouble for this, so I'll get in trouble again. Don't go to the insurance company. Come to me. I'll get you your answers. And I would say on a regular basis, not every day, but on a regular basis, I'm getting emails or phone calls from employees or spouses. I'm having a trouble with this drug. I just had one recently where it took me 2 weeks to solve it. She would never have got it solved if she phoned head office. I was able to find the people to do it. I would say 95% of all my group clients, the administrators, they all come to me for everything. They don't go to the insurance company. And that's what I want. That makes me feel good because I'm solving problems. I'm making retention. And that's what you do in this business. And that's why the book of business is, that's why I've had clients for 35 years.
Okay.
Simple as that.
The way that you've created your own system for your clients to follow, which is a form of discipline as well, right? Things aren't haphazard. They're your clients know what they should be doing. So you've given them some discipline when they run into issues.
Yeah, when I meet a prospect and it looks positive, I give them some assurances and promises. So the promises I promise them is, number one, I'll never get you ball tickets to the Blue Jays. Never going to do that. Number two, I'm never going to take you to a basketball game. Number three, I'm never going to go golfing with you. Number four, I'm never going to go lunching with you. I don't take clients out for lunch. Number five, what I will do for you is I'll answer the phone 7 days a week, 7 in the morning, 11 at night. I'm the 7-Eleven insurance broker, and I will get back to you within 2 hours. Doesn't matter when you phone. My cell's always on, 7-Eleven. But if that's what you're looking for, fine. But if you're looking for freebies and all that, I'm not your guy.
Okay.
And by the way, don't you have a job to do as a group administrator? You are running the company, the finances. You could be the CFO, the HR. I'm a colleague of yours on payroll, and I'm the benefits guy. So everything related to benefits, you come to me. Now, that goes against the grain in the insurance industry. I've ruffled a lot of feathers over the years, but hey, I'm 77 almost.
Yeah.
Sue me.
So it's kind of interesting because you talked about things you don't do and something you do. But how do you show your clients leadership?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I proact a lot. I think that I'll phone up a client and say, I just got something on your experience. It's only 9 months in, but we're going to have a problem on renewal. I think we should get together. Let's review it. I think that I'm always punctual. My wife, it drives her crazy when we go out on a personal, if we go to a wedding or we go somewhere and the wedding, say for 5:30, I'll tell my wife, we'll be there early. And we're always there like 5 o'clock. The first one's there. To this day, I always do it. Whenever I leave an appointment to come home, I always phone my wife. And she'll say, well, what time do you think you'll be home? And this is pre-Waze. And I'd say, I'll be home at 8:30. 8:30, she opens the door. I swear to God, she'll tell you 100 times out of 100. I pull in the driveway at 8:30. My kids, we went to Ottawa on the weekend. My daughter said, when will you be there? I told her. I was there within 5 minutes of what I told her. I didn't know traffic. I didn't check my Waze. I'm just that way. You're punctual. So when a client says you got a meeting at 3, they know I'm going to be there 10 to 3, quarter to 3, waiting. If I say to a client, I'll phone you back before 5, I'll phone them maybe 4:59, but I'm phoning them back. So I think that's leadership for me with clients, because I think the old story, what I say, I mean, and what I mean, I say. And I think that I'm reliable. I think I'm consistent, and I think I'm disciplined, and they know that. And I think that's really good. I think it goes back to family as well, because you can relate clients like family. The worst thing a parent can do is be inconsistent. One day you're saying the child can get away with this, the next day you're disciplining him and taking away something for the same thing. You got to be consistent over and over. And that's what you got to do as a parent. That's what you got to do as a leader of your clients. Because remember one saying that you've heard 100 times, your clients don't know what they don't know. It's my job to tell them what they don't know. And that's leadership.
Okay. So the next question is kind of similar in a way. But how do you show your clients that you value them?
I can tell you one thing. I don't give them gifts. Okay. I give them everything I've got, 100% of myself, service. I'm an open book. They want to know anything about my personal life. A lot of my clients know all about my kids. They know what's going on in my life. They know about my dog. They know about that. I think the other thing is I do what I've learned with other advisors, just basically osmosis, just really treat clients well. And you know what? I try to phone most clients, not all, but I try to phone most clients on their birthday, and I sing them. I sing the birthday song to them. And it shows that I'm human, but I value them as a client. I used to send thank you notes, but that became stupid. And so I stopped doing that. I usually will talk to a client after a sale. And when I go to their house, and we'll have a discussion, and I tell them I appreciate it. One thing that I tell clients, I've done this 1,000 times. I'll sit in a room like we are now, where I am. The window's closed here, but if it was open and we're on the 30th floor of a downtown office tower, and I'll say, what do you see outside? Client will say, I don't know, window, towers, whatever. I said, I don't know what I see. I see 39,999 guys at the window clawing like that, saying, let me in, I can do the same thing. But you know what? I'm there, they're there, I'm appreciative. I'm going to do everything in my power to make you satisfied because I value what you do. Now, very interesting, Gary, to this morning, I'm very big on LinkedIn. I post a lot. I posted today about value. And it was about a cereal that I bought in Buffalo that I like, very expensive, but to me it's value. And I always say, there's value. So there's value in what you do. There's value in how you do it, but it's really important. And I like the word that you said, because that's how I show my clients I value them. The other thing is I never, 100 times out of 100, I never take a client for granted. Just because a client has been with me for 30 years doesn't mean he's going to be with me for 30 years plus one day. Because like any person who's honest in business, doesn't matter what you sell, you're never going to keep 100% of your clients over your career. You're always going to lose some for whatever reason. It could be bankruptcy, could be buyout, could be the guy retired, the new person came in, doesn't like you. So when I hear somebody say, oh, I've had a really good year, I've had 100% persistency, I always say one question. Well, you only got one client? So that you show the client you value, because you know what? It's so hard to get a client. And just like that, you can lose them without even knowing why.
Yeah. Well, throughout our interview this morning, you talked a lot about respect and, honesty and relationship, building a relationship. So I think your clients value you. I think the relationship is reciprocal based on what you've done.
Yeah. I've got a lot of love for my clients over the years. I can tell you for sure, satisfaction is like through the roof with my clientele. I just enjoy them. I have fun with them. We joke around. Yeah. I hope that they don't see that I'm selling them something to make a commission. That day was long gone 40 years ago when I needed that commission to make a sale. And by the way, if anybody's watching this now, that was a client of mine at Crown Life, I humbly apologize for the bad job I did.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So if you were to meet yourself from 20 years ago, or even yourself from like 30 or 40 years ago, what advice would you give yourself?
I think the big advice would be just what we've talked about. Stay the course. You're not going to have a good day every day. You're not going to have a bad day every day. Be disciplined. Love your clients. Treat them with respect. Treat your colleagues with respect. Treat the industry with respect, because everybody has a job to do. And just stay the course. It won't get worse. It will get better. But then when it gets better, it might get worse, but it will get better. And that took me a long time, because when I'm out cold calling in my first year in February in Canada, I mean, cold calling was cold calling. These knuckles were frozen, trust me. And there were days where I said to my wife, I don't know if I can do this. And her answer was, yeah, you can do it. You just got to keep on it. And she pushed me, not in a negative way, but in a positive, loving, family way, wife, to help me out, because she knew the ability that I had. The manager knew the ability I had. I had to have the ability to find that. And that was one thing that was very tough. People wouldn't know it now, but I didn't have a very high esteem of my starting point when I started 40 years ago. I didn't think I was a good salesman. I never wanted to be a salesman. I wanted to be a teacher, but unfortunately that didn't work out. We decided to get out of that before too late. But as I grew into it, I loved it. And now I look back on it and say, you know what? I wish I knew then what I know now. And what I know now is this is fun, and you can make it fun. And I tried to make it fun with some of the cold calling with the, get off the phone type of thing. One of the other things I did to make it fun, Gary, just so you'll laugh this one, I used to phone people and say, I can save, the old one that people still use today trying to get my clients. Oh, we can save you money. And I'll say to a guy, oh, I can save you money. Guy says, I've got insurance. Yeah, I can save you money. What do you mean you can save? I can save you $5,000. Guy says, how can you save me $5,000? I'm not even paying that. Well, I'll tell you, sir, this was in my first year of insurance, once I got on the welcome wagon. Sir, I'm a very high qualified, sought after advisor broker, but I charge $5,000 for my expertise. But I will tell you, if you meet with me and you buy from me, I'll waive the $5,000. I had more chuckles over that. People thought that was a great line, and I got interviews because of it. And then when I come to their house, one of the first things they'd say is, so I'm saving $5,000 tonight? I said, depending what you buy, it could be $10,000. Yeah. So again, those are things that I wish I knew. I mean, I knew a little bit, but I think the whole thing is that it's like you said, it's rocky, but guess what? It levels off. And the longer you're in it, the more fun you'll have. I'm having more fun today than I did 20 years ago, than I did 10 years ago. Because I look at this job as it's fun. It is a great business to be in.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to your attitude, right? How you think. You're a positive thinker, and you see the positive. You said about the glass that there is no glass.
There's no glass. I also think of my dad, what he must have gone through. And by the way, I never had that conversation. And if you go into the book, which I keep publicizing, and I'm not asking for sales, but I have to relate to it because that's my life. I never talked about my dad, but what he must have gone through in a small town being Jewish with anti-Semitism, how many days did he come home to my mother like, I can't take this anymore. This is getting ridiculous. The sales aren't there. We're not making the mortgage payment this month. Like, what's going on? But yet he survived until he died. Mm-hmm. He retired 1 year before he died. My dad never worked for anybody else. He was always self-employed. When I was working in Owen Sound, I worked for the city and I got the first paycheck. And my dad wanted to see it because he'd never seen a paycheck with deductions. Didn't know what it meant. Never got one in his life. Always worked for my grandfather. And then when my grandfather died, he took over the business till he died. And of course, he sold it the year before he died of cancer. So I think I learned, it's funny what you learn, but you don't know. Like I say, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. You learn from people, but you don't realize it until you start talking about it. And when I wrote the book, I started thinking about my dad. What did he go through? And how did he get through those negatives? Well, if he did it, I can do it because my life is a lot easier than his.
Right. Yeah. And it's surprising how many people don't reflect on their life or their parents' life. Because no one's life's easy. And, our previous generations, they went through a lot of hardships that we don't have to go through.
Got it. And also, I hope my kids are not going to go through what I did.
Yeah.
And that's what you're hoping as well, for sure. I'll just bring back what you said. Everybody's got hardships. Yeah. People look before she died and he died. You looked at the Queen. And you say, what a life she had. Millions of dollars. She's got castles everywhere. Every day she's got a new clothes. She doesn't have to pay. You know what? If you watch The Crown and you see and you read that biography, you're not a happy person. And you're sitting there, how could you not be happy with the life she's got? Everybody loves her. She flies over the world. She doesn't never have to go to a grocery store once in her life. You don't have to worry about the bills being paid. You don't have to worry. All you got to do is smile and shake hands, kiss babies, and travel. But yet she had a horrible personal life, right?
Yeah.
And so you wonder. So I agree with you, Gary. Everybody's got adversity in life. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. So, Joel, how many more years do you plan to be in the insurance industry?
Well, when I joined the company I'm with now, I told them that I will stay to age 85 for sure, and then we'll renegotiate after that. So I don't see myself, let's put it this way, as long as my health is there, but more important, as long as my clients still think that I can do what I'm doing, I see no reason to retire. Now, have I stopped working like I did before? Yeah. I always tell people that I've cut down to half days. I'm only working 12 hours a day now. So, it's, that's, no, to me, it's, what, I couldn't see, I'm not a Florida guy. I'm not a gardener. My wife is, but not me. I'm not a golfer. I don't golf. So if I retire, what am I going to do? I mean, there's only so many wrestling matches I can go to, right? So, and there's only so many books I can read. So I might as well have fun doing what I'm doing, enjoying the life that I'm enjoying, but I'm able to take the time off when I want. And so in my mind, I'm not putting in the hours that I used to, but I still take phone calls 10 o'clock at night. I still take phone calls at 8 o'clock in the morning. I've had phone calls since I've been here on Saturdays and Sundays. I've helped people out. I've emailed, but I don't look upon it as work. I think that's part of the problem. And I really feel sorry for some of my clients that I've met who tell me stories, because I ask them what you do and do you like it and all that. And going to work every day and not liking it. Oh, man. I could never envision. I mean, I was a teacher and I loved teaching, but I hated the bureaucracy. I love insurance. I hate the bureaucracy. I am not a company guy. I am an individual, never have, never will be. I think I learned that from my father, never worked for anybody, wanted to be self-employed, make his own rules. I mean, obviously the insurance companies I got to work for because they're the ones that decide what the rates are and servicing. But basically, I'm paying my own thing and doing my own thing. And when I was a teacher, one of the reasons I left was the bureaucracy. It just got to me. And that was back in 1978. Can you imagine what it is like now? Yeah. Imagine being a teacher today. I couldn't do that. Couldn't do it. Yeah. Just get out of there. So after 9 years, I decided, no, I don't want it anymore. I'm out of here. And we did. We left. And we started in Toronto. We left a small town and moved to Toronto. I had no job, unemployment insurance, but we survived.
Okay. Well, you know what, Joel, it looks like we're just about out of time for part one of our podcast on success and what you can do to become a person of success. I want to thank you for being our guest and for providing such great value and insight. It's very much appreciated. Audience, be sure to tune in to part two of our podcast because you don't want to miss the additional value and insight that Joel provides. Joel, how can our audience get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best email for me is Joel, Joel, at scinsurance.ca, or go on LinkedIn. If you want to really connect with me, go on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day. I don't post every day, but my name is out there every day. I'm commenting or whatever. And I think LinkedIn is a great way of doing it. And, make sure that you don't leave. Come back for part two because we got a lot more to talk about, Gary, right?
You bet. So I want to thank one more time our sponsor, Customplan Financial Advisors. Customplan Financial Advisors is an award-winning MGA providing exceptional support and resources to the independent financial advisor. Please visit their website at customplanfinancial.com. This podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, and at financialpodcast.ca. To be notified of when new podcasts are available, please subscribe by visiting financialpodcast.ca. If you have an idea or a topic for a podcast, please send me an email at info@financialpodcast.ca. We'd also love to receive your feedback. So thank you again, Joel, for being our guest. And to everyone else, have a fabulous day.
The views expressed here are those of the participants and not those of Customplan Financial Advisors, Inc., its affiliates, or subsidiaries. This is not intended to serve as a complete analysis of every material fact regarding any company, industry, or security. This presentation may contain forward-looking statements. Investors are cautioned not to place undue reliance on such statements, as actual results could vary. This site and podcasts are for general information purposes only and does not constitute investment advice and is not intended as an endorsement of any specific investment product or service. Individual investors should consult with an investment professional about their personal situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results. If you are unsure about what is the best course of action for you in your financial planning, then we suggest you consult a fee-based independent financial advisor or get in touch with us to discuss your individual situation. Our phone number is 604-687-7773.